Have you ever wondered what it truly means to have God-given strength, and what happens when we misuse the gifts and blessings God entrusts to us? Today we're diving into the dramatic and inspiring story of Samson, a man set apart by God before his birth, yet who struggled to align his life with God's purpose. This story is packed with lessons on faith, obedience, and the incredible grace of God. So, grab your Bible or sit back and let's explore this epic tale together. The story of Samson begins in Judges 13. Israel was in a dark time. They had turned away from God, and as a result, the Philistines oppressed them for 40 years. But God, in His mercy, had a plan to deliver them. An angel of the Lord appeared to Manoah's wife, a barren woman, and declared she would conceive a son. This child was to be a Nazirite, set apart for God. The angel instructed her to avoid wine, unclean food, and cutting the child's hair. This boy, Samson, was chosen by God to begin delivering Israel from the Philistines. Key takeaway: God often calls us before we're even aware of it. He sets plans in motion for our lives, even in the midst of challenging times. Are we willing to embrace His calling? Samson grew up blessed by the Spirit of the Lord, and his strength became legendary. One day, he encountered a young lion. Filled with the Spirit of God, Samson tore the lion apart with his bare hands. Later, he found honey in the carcass, which became part of a riddle he posed to the Philistines at his wedding. But Samson's weaknesses soon became evident. He had a tendency to act impulsively and was drawn to Philistine women, despite God's warnings to remain separate. His marriage ended in betrayal and revenge, leading to escalating conflict with the Philistines. Key takeaway: strength is not just physical. It's also spiritual and emotional. Without discipline and obedience to God, even the strongest can falter. Samson's exploits continued to astonish. In one instance, he killed 1,000 Philistines with the jawbone of a donkey. Yet despite these victories, Samson often relied on his own strength rather than seeking God's guidance. His weakness for women led him to Delilah, a Philistine woman. The Philistine leaders bribed her to discover the secret of his strength. After much persistence, Samson revealed that his strength was tied to his Nazirite vow, symbolized by his uncut hair. When he fell asleep, Delilah cut his hair, and the Philistines captured him. Key takeaway: be vigilant about where you place your trust and whom you allow into your inner circle. Disobedience and misplaced trust can lead to devastating consequences. The Philistines blinded Samson and made him a slave. Yet, in his lowest moment, Samson's heart turned back to God. While imprisoned, his hair began to grow back, symbolizing the restoration of his Nazirite vow. During a Philistine celebration, Samson was brought out to entertain the crowd. Standing between two pillars, he prayed, "Sovereign Lord, remember me. Please, God, strengthen me just once more." God granted his request, and with a final act of strength, Samson pushed down the pillars, collapsing the temple and killing many Philistines and himself in the process. Key takeaway: no matter how far we've strayed, God's grace is always available. Repentance and faith can lead to redemption, even in the most hopeless situations. Samson's life offers us powerful lessons. God's calling, God's plans for us are unique and purposeful, but they require our cooperation and obedience. Guarding our strength, our gifts and talents are from God and should be used for His glory, not for selfish gain. Avoiding temptation, we must guard our hearts and align our relationships with God's will. Repentance, it's never too late to turn back to God. His mercy and grace are sufficient for all who seek Him. Samson's story reminds us that while we may stumble, God's purpose for our lives remains. His strength is made perfect in our weakness. So, let's strive to use the gifts He's given us to honor Him and live out His calling. Thank you for joining us today. If you've been inspired by Samson's story, let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more Bible stories and faith-filled content. And remember, no matter your struggles, God's grace is greater. Stay blessed and keep the faith.